Okay, I'm going to do a 360-degree view here for you, and with that we go through several thousand years of history. This is megalithic Cuzco. The stone is from 30 kilometers away. This is one of the walls, and then it transitions into Spanish. That's Spanish style. And then here, this is, believe it or not, classical Inca. And again, we transition to Spanish style again on an Inca foundation. And then again, the Great Wall. The repair you see in the center is Inca period. They obviously found this building already broken up, probably due to the catastrophe that happened 11,500 years ago. So here's another example of transition for you. This is one of the massive churches in Cuzco, made out of recycled Inca palaces. They simply took the walls down, stones that were not too big, and those that they didn't have to shape too much, and built their own buildings. But this is what most people think of as Inca. Very precise construction with little or no gap in between the blocks. The precision cut that you can see here of the surface, perfectly flat. And then the interesting thing they did is that they curved the walls like this. But I don't think the Inca built this. I think this is before their time. Part of the megalithic culture, or one of the megalithic cultures. And this could very well be classic Inca. And it probably is, because we know that inside this building, Pachacutec, who was the most famous of the Inca, was born. But what we can also see is how the builders cheated. They had the exterior look like this, so that it's more or less seamless. And the same on the other side. But inside the core, they filled it with rubble, like that. But before this was demolished or damaged, it would have looked like it was an intact Inca wall. The same here we see on the top of this. The outside is very well done, but the inside is filled with other material. It makes it easier and faster to build that way. To do megalithic, interlocking perfect blocks is monumental in the skill level it would take. And this too is Inca. It appears that the blocks fit super tightly together, but we're able to see the interior, and you can see that there's a pie-shaped space. It's a lot easier to build than trying to do a perfect join through the whole thing. And the other interesting thing is you see Inca period, and then you see a later Inca period above. Because the Spanish knew concrete and knew how to use concrete, it's easy to identify Spanish construction, because this is modern, but still, they used very thick, fat joints of mortar for fast building. But the Inca used a local clay, which is hard enough that it wouldn't, the wall wouldn't fall apart even if it rained a lot, because there was roofing over top. But it shows us how the Inca built. And this, in comparison, to the superstructure we'll get to next, the Coricancha, which is possibly the world's greatest building accomplishment from the past several thousand years. So this is where the story gets very interesting, as I try not to get run over. This clearly is megalithic. It's a green granite, I believe, and it transitions into smaller stones like this. Different material. This, I believe, is basalt. And then as we transition around the corner, then again it changes to something else. Classic Inca. Going all the way down this way. You can tell it's probably Inca and not Spanish, because the mortar is an adobe-like material. The Spanish knew what concrete was and knew how to make it. And then, the glory of all glories is this, which is the wall of the Coricancha. And that's what we get into next. This, as I've said many times before, could be the most perfect wall in the world. It's definitely the best built wall in South America, as far as I can tell. And what's most intriguing, or some things, is the shine that you can see. You see the glow in the joins. That's only in the horizontal. You don't find it in the vertical surfaces, which is intriguing. But also, the level of craftsmanship required to do that tiny little difference in height there is phenomenally important. It would have, in fact, been easier to make everything flat and just have them stack on top of each other. But my new theory is that since this is an earthquake-prone zone, you don't want all the blocks right on top of each other perfectly flat, because in the event of an earthquake, the wall can slide back and forth. So by having these in opposing positions along a wall, it means it stops this one from being allowed to move that way. And finally, for this video, this is where we see the transition from the incredible Coricancha basalt, I believe, from a quarry 50 kilometers away, transitioning to this, which is probably an Inca reconstruction of the damaged wall, because there's adobe mud used and little stone shims and things. And above that is more of the classic Inca. And above that still is the basic common stucco stuff that the Spanish wound up using a lot. Okay, so here's evidence of what I was talking about. Now this stone can't move that way because it would have to push the entire wall up in order to shift during an earthquake to the left. So we move along. There's another one that does the same thing. It can't go to the left, but it also can't go to the right. So this one is stuck in place. It acts like a jam or a dam kind of thing. And as we continue moving along, again, this little transition means that this one especially would have a bit of a difficult time trying to move that way. It would have to push the wall up. And then it gets more obvious here. Again, we have one of these stones which looks like it was almost like purposefully done that way to stop stones from the left or the right being able to move left or right. Earthquake proofing mechanism, and is the reason why the wall is not perfectly straight, because the builders knew that earthquakes happen in waves, and therefore straight lines are not a smart idea. And also in terms of resonance, if the whole thing is so tight, then that means that it could possibly vibrate, much as I've heard the Great Pyramid does, or did when it was functioning as a power plant, thanks to Chris Dunn. That the whole thing vibrated as one thing, and therefore sound being in waveform moves more naturally along wave lines than it does straight. Thank you for your time.